Hello my friends, it's Justin Michael. Welcome back to my channel, and of course welcome if it's your first time visiting. Hope you're staying well. I have a couple of decks I want to show you today, and I'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to tell you about the Mary Greer event I attended last night, which was really cool. It had to do with tarot and magic. It was really great experience. Mary Greer, most of you will know, she's been around forever, since like the 70s and 80s. She's one of the godmothers of tarot, along with Rachel Pollack. She wrote a lot of great books. And she does occasionally some workshops, which I've attended. This is, I think, is like the third one I've done with her. And it had to deal with tarot and magic. Magic's one of those terms, like, sort of, we think of magic like from Fantasia, like Disney movies, or Merlin the Wizard or something, but magic has a very practical kind of meaning. And it's just basically the power of intention. It's manifesting things, it's manifesting your destiny through the power of will and intention, and sort of executing it in a ritualistic manner, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Especially as it relates to tarot. And it was really cool experience. It's very powerful. And one of the prerequisites for the course, or something we had to do in preparation for the course, was we had to establish an altar, right? It had to be 18 by 18. We had to lay out an altar cloth and a candle, and you had to have something to represent the four elements, and like a stone and so forth. And the cards we placed on the altar were like cards of intention and so forth. Well, as I was sitting down to set up my altar, and Mary's talking about the four directions relating to the elements, and I'm like, well, damn, I don't have a stone, because she had her stone set up, and I was like, I forgot to grab stone. I don't have many crystals. I'm not really a crystal person. I do like them. I don't have many. I have a few, and they're scattered like all over. Like, I have them in different places, and I just forgot to grab one. So I was looking around for something to put on my altar. It was like anything, something meaningful. And I turned over and I looked beside me. There's this peanut guy here, and it has all my guitar picks, and I see this little thing sitting there, which looked to be like a Norse compass. And I never saw it before. I was like, where the hell did this come from? But it showed up in like the right time. It was so weird and very synchronistic. So what happened was, my friend Kristen Louise, most of you will probably know her. She's a YouTube creator. She sent me a deck a few weeks ago, and when I received it, she said, oh, by the way, as an afterthought, she said, you got the little stave, right? And I was like, what, a stave? I was like, yeah, I thought she meant like a stick, like an ohm stave. She said, yeah, there was a little stave in there. I sent you for, like, good luck, and I know I was sort of going through some stuff because of COVID and so forth. And she sent it like as a nice gesture, but I didn't get it. And I was like, oh shit, I probably threw it away, because it's so small. Well, here, that's where it came from. What happened was, probably when I opened the package, this fell out on the floor, and I just never saw it. And then my partner probably was in here, and he probably saw it on the floor, he picked it up, and he put it with my guitar picks. So just as I'm sitting down for my ceremony with Mary Greer, the whole ritual I was doing, I was looking for something to place with the four directions, and I was like, just anything. It's almost like I manifested it with my will. It was like an act of magic in itself. It was very synchronistic, and it's actually a compass, which has to do with the four directions. You know what I mean? And so it was just amazing that showed up like just when I needed it. So this now has very special meaning to me. But it was really a great event. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it's something that I'd like to do more. And the good thing is that it was a live event, but you get a recording of it as well, so I can watch it again and sort of learn and write down some more things and so forth to really do it, because I had just a powerful experience doing it. That was just one of a few. The others I can't really explain. It was more very personal experience. How I was feeling and so forth, and it was really powerful. So, and I recommend doing workshops with Mary if she does them again in the future, which I think she may, because it was just really something special. So So that was my little synchronicity that happened. I want to show you a few tarot decks, and the overall theme of the decks I'm going to show you today are basically they're historic decks. Okay, all of them are historic decks, but these are decks I feel that are important for the evolution of tarot. You know, like if you're a student of tarot and you want to like learn about the evolution of the deck as a tool of divination, I feel these are like the most essential decks to have in your collection. And I'm not an expert on them. I'm actually reading and learning a lot about them now. So that's why I figured I'd show you. But before that, I want to show you a deck that I received yesterday, which is a historic deck, but it's not sort of a part of what I was talking about. This is a Tarot de Marseille by John Dodal. And it's by Alejandro Lumineer, by LumineerTarot.com. I don't know if you can see that, but I will link his website below. He's on Facebook, and I actually pre-ordered this deck. So I have a few Dodal decks, and I have a few Rollicon decks as well. But I don't really read with them often because they're more for me as like a reference library. I have all these historic tarot decks that I use, especially when I'm restoring my own facsimiles and so forth, because I do, as a hobby, I do some facsimiles, especially recently. I've been tinkering around. Here's one of my uncut sheets. So this is a, and if you notice, it has an off-white color to it, you know, because typically when they come from the museum, you get, it's actually a photograph of the deck in the museum, right? So you're going to have that paper color in there. You're going to have all the imperfections and so forth. It's going to be as it exists in the museum. That's what a facsimile is. Well, this is a facsimile of the John Dodal. And I'm going to show you. So the box it comes in is really lovely. I did show it to you, but I just want to show you once again. It's a two-piece box. It's going to look great on my shelf, and I'm just very excited about it. Has the classic Dodal back, you know, which you will see like Tarot Sheet Revival's Dodali or the John Dodal from Jean-Claude Flournoy. This deck is really, really cool, and I love Type 1, you know, Dodal decks. I really love them, especially lately. And this is going to be a deck I will use because it's really shuffleable. It's not like fancy kind of old school paper like you would get from Tarot Sheet Revival or, you know, Evernaud, something like that. It's on like, you know, sort of usable paper. This could actually probably get wet, not get damaged. But it's a really pretty facsimile. And what I like about it, and I had to actually kind of really sit with it to appreciate it, but you know, you have the aged paper color look on it, which is cool, and it sort of looks just like it does in the museum, which I think is really nice. Now these aren't going to be in order because I've already shuffled them around a little bit, but I'm just going to show you some majors. You guys are all familiar with the, you know, the arrangement of the 22 majors, you know. So now this is the Strength card, LaFours, right? And the Nicholas Rollicon is a very similar deck to the Jean Dodal. It's almost identical in a lot of ways, except for like little details, because it is by a different artist. But this is a feature that the Rollicon did not have, and that's the little writing on the side here. I found out what that is. I didn't know when I did my Rollicon video, but I found out later. I don't know if it was my friend Masha from Musings by Masha or Cheryl Smith or somebody told me that this was actually a stamp by Customs, I believe. And it just meant like this is being sold to foreigners is basically what that is. It says something literal like for sale for foreigners, something. So that's very interesting. You know, and so I know a little bit about that now. Temperance. So again, these are not in any particular order. Just have the majors kind of put aside. Here's the Devil. So that's a classic Type 1 Devil. You have the face and the belly. You know, most of you will be familiar with John Dodal. It's a classic deck and one of my favorite Tarot Marseilles. And there's our Tower. And it's just nice to have a deck now that I will use. You know, because I do have a Rollicon I use, but I'm not going to show you all of them because I do have quite a few decks to show you today. but it's really beautiful. And it feels nice, you know? And they shuffle nice. So let me show you a couple of pips before I put it back in the box. So here's the Ace of Pentacles. And of course the Two of Pentacles, and you'll see, you know, Dodali. It's very, very pretty. So I have another Dodal in my collection, and that's something I'm very excited about. So now, what I was telling you about was that I want to show you some decks that I feel like are essentials, you know, for the study of tarot, and one of which is the Oswald Wirth tarot. So Oswald Wirth, he lived in Switzerland. I can't remember. I think he might have been French originally, and he was exiled to Switzerland. I'm not really sure, but he was a student of Eliphas Levi, who most of you will know from the tarot books. You know, he was like the guy who, you know, applied Kabbalah and the Hebrew letters to the tarot. Well, Oswald Wirth was the sort of the first guy to design a deck that was popular, right? And he has two very known decks. One is from the late 1800s, and the other was printed in the early 1900s. So I'm going to show you both of those. This particular version, it's actually two decks in a pack, I purchased it from Aquilonoa.fr. So I will link that down below as well. These are beautiful. I'm so glad I got them. They were not overpriced whatsoever. They were very affordable. And it comes with a book. So it comes in this package like this. And then you get the original booklet from Oswald Wirth. So this is Introduction to Tarot Study by Oswald Wirth. And then you get two decks. You get his, I believe it's like 1859. I'm going to show you here. But it's great for, okay, so the second one was in 1926, and the first tarot was in 1889. Yeah, so I was way off, 1889. So that's the one I'm going to show you first. I'm going to show you the 1889 version, and this is going to be the one you're going to be most familiar with. Well, I don't know if you'll be you're probably familiar with both because they're both well known. But there was a version of this deck that was printed, I believe, on Drive-Thru Cards. I forget the name of the designer, but they redid the Oswald Wirth, and Simon showed that quite a few times on his channel and over at the Hermit's Cave. I love these greenbacks. That's like one of my favorite colors. It's almost like aqua green or turquoise or something, you know. It's like greenish blue. And then these are what they look like. So these were originally published in a magazine, actually like in 1889, I think it was. And so Oswald Wirth he believed that the majors were the meat and potatoes of the tarot deck. He put absolutely no importance into the minor arcana. And a lot of the early people did that, including A.E. Waite, by the way. You know, he didn't really find the minors. And it's kind of ironic because his deck is the one that sort of made pip reading like possible, because it became with Pixie designing all the fully illustrated pips. Sorry about the alarm, by the way, but here's what it is. So you see here the Fool. Now you have the Hebrew letter of Shin here, which is like, I think it's the last letter, or it's one of the last letters of the 22 Hebrew letters. I'm pretty sure it's last. But in the modern Golden Dawn correspondence, the letter Shin is actually not on the Fool. The Fool, because they counted the Fool as the card at the end of the deck. They didn't view it as a card in the beginning. So now you have Aleph, which is this letter here, which is on the Magician in this deck. Aleph, I was listening to Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom on audio because it just was released. And by the way, I recommend doing that because it's been great. So, you know, definitely download Rachel's book. But Aleph, as Rachel was explaining, is a Hebrew letter that has no pronunciation. It's like a silent letter. It only fits in with whatever other letters it's with in a sentence. And so that's perfect for the Fool, you know, because the Fool has no value. It's zero, you know. It has full potential, It's not good, it's not bad, it's just like, you know, it's unlimited potential. It's kind of good energy, actually, I think, the Fool, for me. But, because there's a certain optimism to the Fool, you know. So, yeah, and then, but in this deck, of course, because the Fool there was no Fool's Journey yet, you know. There was no Eden Gray, it wasn't Wait, you know, and I think Wait actually fiddled around with the position of the Fool as well. So we didn't really get the Fool's Journey until Eden Gray, I suspect. And it just works so well with the modern tarot that we all read that way. But if you're a student of tarot like I am, you want to learn about the history and the evolution of the deck, this is an essential deck, I believe, to have. And it's very much in the style of like a Tarot de Marseille, you know. But it has the esoteric correspondences. It's a very Masonic deck. When I say Masonic, I mean Freemasonry. And he talks about that in the book, actually. But I'm looking for a good example. The High Priestess, which of course is not going to be around. It's just very, very Masonic. So you have, for instance, the two pillars, Boaz and Jacquin, which you see really spelled out in Rider-Waite-Smith. Well, I think pretty much every deck I'm going to show you here is a Masonic deck in some form or another. And it's just really interesting. And I happen to be a Freemason. I became a Freemason in 2007, a third-degree Mason. And it's something I'm very proud of. There's a long history. And, you know, originally the Masons were very esoteric and like very secular, very about sacred geometry, and they were really a real child of the Enlightenment, you know. Here's Judgment. But this is just a beautiful deck. It's essential. Now, if you want to learn about this specific deck, and you want to go further than the little instruction book from Aquilonoa, you can get a book called Tarot of the Magicians, which is, it has an introduction by Mary Greard, but it's written by Oswald Wirth. And at the end of the book, you get a copy of that deck. They're smaller, and you can cut them out, and they're actually not too bad. And I believe Simon from the Hermit's Cave does a walkthrough of this, which is pretty cool. But this is basically like this book, but it's the more elaborate version. I think this one was first, if I'm not mistaken, and then Tarot of the Magicians was published. But that's a good one. So to get, you know, if you're looking for something to have. So the second deck that comes with Aquilonoa is the one that was printed in 1922, I believe, and the same company. You know, you can buy both of them, and so this one's really cool. It has red backs, and it says Tarot, you know, Taro, Rhoda, like the wheel, or Torah, you know. Very, very esoteric, and the backs are just really, really cool. And then these are what the cards are. So this is the more of the gold foil design. I love this version. I'm very happy with it, and like, I don't know if I mentioned, but the cardstock is so sturdy and phenomenal with this Aquilonoa version. But I know there are a few of them that have really good gold foil kind of look to it, and I apologize, they're out of order again, but you know, pretty sure you guys are familiar with the order of tarot. So I'm just going to show you them as I see them. It's a very beautiful deck. But like I said, I know Marco Benedetti, he has a Japanese printer which prints in gold foil, and it's really beautiful. And I know he has one because his deck is in gold foil as well. The ink is very expensive, so it's a pricey deck, but I can put his link down below as well if you were interested in looking at that. And then Cartogram also has a version of the Oswald Wirth. I know Carol Hertzer has an Oswald Wirth, but the Cartogram version is all hand-applied gold foil. And she has a video on YouTube which you can watch. That's, you know, it's amazing. It gives me goosebumps. I got so emotional watching that because it was just so beautiful watching her design those decks. So, you know, this is a historic classic deck that I feel like, you know, you should just have. I thought about getting this particular hangman tattooed on me because I was looking for a hangman to get as a tattoo, and I thought, well, Oswald Wirth would be great because it's just so well known and so, you know. illustrious. So that's my two of my. These are probably my favorite Oswald Wirths that I have in my collection right now. I don't have Cartogram. Another Oswald Wirth deck I do have though is the Golden Wirth by Lo Scarabeo. This is a great deck. It's 22 major arcana, because that's all Oswald Wirth did. Comes with a little booklet. And you have more like gold foil design here. You know what I mean? Where you can see it's very shiny. If you see any of Lo Scarabeo's golden decks, you know, it's pretty classic, like in that realm, you know. Look at that sun card. I mean, it's just unbelievably beautiful. It's just such a classic deck, you know. And this is a beautiful rendition of it. These are the backs. And there's the Fool. So if you're a collector, I mean, you got to have an Oswald Wirth in your collection, I think. It's a little different. It's not exactly like an exact replica. There's a few things changed. It's based on the style of Oswald Wirth, you know what I mean? But it's really, really beautiful. If I show you the world card. So that's Lo Scarabeo. That's a good one as well. So along with Oswald Wirth, you know, so now Wirth, like I said, he was a student of Levi, and he really expanded on Levi's teachings, and he designed a deck that was very esoteric and focused only on the majors. There's a fellow called Eudes Piccard who, this has become more of the Spanish tradition. I'm not sure if he was Spanish or French and moved to Spain, or if the Spanish just adopted his system, but Eudes Piccard, his name is, and this is the Eudes Piccard deck. So he was really the first, at least to my knowledge, he was the first that I know of the historic, like the historic occultist to really design a system to read minors, the minor arcana. Because Wirth didn't want to be bothering, even like I mentioned to some extent, Waite also didn't really want anything to do with the minors, you know, and that was more Pixie, I think, than anything that really, you know, and that's why Pixie's like, you know, a tarot hero as well, because, you know, she's just an innovator, you know. So this deck is printed by Noreah Brownfield, who prints the Tarot of the Holy Light. It is still available. Now, Simon from the Hermit's Cave just showed a deck on his channel during one of his couple of catch-ups or one of his quarantine streams or something of the El Gran Tarot Esoterico. That deck is based in large part on this deck, Eudes Piccard. So, and if you want to watch a really thorough like walkthrough and a history of it, it's probably 2 hours long in typical Kelly Fitzgerald fashion, but Kelly has a great walkthrough, which I will put down below as well. But so let me see if I can find the, see, this is all mixed up as well, but I'm gonna show you. Here's the Papes. This is the major. So this is very Oswald Wirth, you know, in its style. There are some different things, like some astrological stuff on here, but it looks very Marseille. It's actually more Marseille than Oswald Wirth, because look at the Fool, for instance. You know, that's a classic Fool in a Marseille style. But the thing that really makes him known is his system for the minor arcana, you know. These are the backs, by the way. Very, very cool. You can, I don't know about an original. This is probably available in the museum, in one of the museums, so you can probably get like a nice facsimile, but this is a beautiful version done by Noreah. It's really, really nice. So here, this is one of the core cards. This is you know, the Knight of Pentacles. Now, the thing that makes this deck interesting is that it doesn't exactly line up with how we view the elements today. Like swords correspond to water and cups are air. Coins are still earth, and I believe wands are still fire, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, there's a lot of interesting quirks to this. But what I love about it, and the same reason I like Elgrin Esoterico, and another deck I'm going to show you as well, called the Knapp Hall, is that there's a lot of geometry in this deck. And when you're learning numerology, especially if you're not thinking about Kabbalah, even if you are, I mean, still numerology involved, but here's some more core cards. It's the Queen of Pentacles. You have a lot of these geometric patterns, So, for instance, you can look at that and say, you have the 4 coins down below in the earth. That's like the foundation. That's a solid foundation. And then you have the growth of the 5. So this is 9. So you're kicking off from like a stable place, with the 9. It's you can do a lot with visually with the numerology. You know what I mean? And you got all the majors here. Oh wait, let me show you one more major. Look at the sun. That's a great sun card. I love that. And still a lot of geometry in there. Sort of reminds me of the sun from the Millennium deck by Houdan. Okay, so here we are, the Ace of Swords now. So if you look at the sword suit, it's water. I mean, there's water everywhere. And you have the crayfish and everything. And so it's funny because people will say, oh, well, this is such a strange system, I could never. But this is really the first miners system. So this predates AE weight. This predates any of the modern sort of pip-centric tarots. You know what I mean? Other than the Tarot de Marseille. But a lot of the Marseille people read with majors only as well. So, but I think that's just amazing. And so, this is one of the first decks. So it's just different to us. Like, it doesn't make sense in terms of the modern tarot, and the modern view of, the Golden Dawn kind of association with the elements. But I did read somewhere that swords were water because, of tears. I don't know if that was like a legit view, but it made sense to me. I was like, okay, well, it's different, but because I have heard of swords as fire, for instance, and they're forged in fire, so you can see. But this is just really interesting numerologically, and then you have a lot of astrology in here as well, and just a lot of beautiful art as well in this deck. It's very, very pretty. I don't know how historically accurate it is. I want to say it's based on like original line work, but I'm not 100% sure. But the artwork, the end result is beautiful. It's just beautiful. And it is a little different from El Gran Tarot Esoterico, but it's very similar as well. So now, another deck that you might be familiar with, here's the Ace of Cups, and this is the element of air. Another deck you're going to be familiar with is the Universal Wirth Tarot. Now that takes the majors from Wirth and the minors from Piccard. A lot of people don't realize that. Another few decks that take this system are the Tarot of Balbi, which is a Fournier deck. You'll see in a lot of the Spanish decks, they adopt this, like Fournier decks. A lot of them are Eudes Piccard sort of based. So I think it's important to learn about, if you're a student, if you're interested in it, you don't have to, but most of you are like me and you want to learn about the evolution of tarot and just to be a nerd and see where it all came from and how it evolved. And this is just an important deck to have, I think, So here's the Four of Cups. So really, really pretty deck. One of these days I'm going to actually, I think maybe in my next video I'm going to do all my, my next video will be my birthday. I'm doing a birthday kind of haul video, but I want to show my entire Fournier collection, and that's coming up pretty soon. So so now you have the Nine of Cups, for instance, and so you see that 4 as the foundation, and then you have like some kind of manifestation above the stable place. This is all air, so you have butterflies, I think it has more to do with how you view the playing card suits and that's why they've changed. Because in Spain they have clubs just like the Italian system does. It has clubs, and in the French and English system you actually have spades. You know what I mean? So some people say, oh well, spades correspond to earth because you dig with them, and then other people say spades are a type of sword. I happen to think spades are swords. I mean that's good enough for me. I've accepted that, because otherwise, if you don't make up your mind about stuff like that, it doesn't really matter what system you go by. You just have to accept it for yourself, one system, and then go with it. Now, for me to use this deck is no problem, because I can say, oh well, the cups are air. That's it, and I just imagine, well, it looks like a cup, but it's really a sword. It's the same principle. Some people probably will have a hard time doing that. And I can certainly understand that. So here's Wands, is very much the element of fire. It's such a beautiful deck. And Kelly Fitzgerald does a great job walking through this deck. And like I said, I'll link that below. But one of my favorites is the 7, because 7's a number that I've always struggled with. Even do sometimes, because 7 can mean, it's such a sacred and powerful number that I feel like sometimes I just don't know which way to go with it. But that's a great example right there of like strength or growth from stability. Could be strength from stability too, but because you have the stable kind of square at the bottom, and then you have the 3 wands. So there's a lot going on there, but it's great for building your numerology kind of vocabulary kind of thing, And then here you have the 9. So that's like very much looks like a compass. Looks like my little thing. I don't know where it went. It's probably in my pocket, but so yeah, that's Eudes Piccard. And the last deck I want to show you is this is the Knapp Hall Tarot. Okay, and this is very, very similar to the Eudes Piccard. So Knapp Hall, if you're a real collector, you'll probably want a vintage version. I do know my friend Melissa Zupan, she did a comparison between the original and this current version, which is available at the Philosophical Research Society. And comes in a really nice 2-part box. So this is the Knapp Hall. Again, very Masonic. Knapp Hall were 2 Masons, just like A.E. Waite, just like Oswald Wirth. All the early esoteric tarots came from a Masonic background, which is really cool. And I love that, I have an attachment to that. I became a Freemason before I even really was very into tarot. But in the same sense, I was attracted to Masonry for the same reason I was attracted to that tarot deck. It was like my quest for kind of understanding, Gnostic truths and things like that. Like, I don't know, I was always on this quest to kind of figure out, what's really going on with everything. And I was interested in people that openly discussed, these ideas, these esoteric ideas. And I think that's why I wanted to be a Mason, because I just felt like they knew the secret to everything, and which of course is not true. They're people just like us, but they talk about these really, they refer to God as the grand architect of the universe instead of God or Yahweh or whatever. And it's just really, first off, to go in a Masonic building. If you ever come to Philadelphia, visit the Masonic Temple of Philadelphia, the Grand Temple. It's right across from City Hall. It was built the same year as City Hall, but it's such a beautiful building. They have all these little temples inside, and it's just so beautiful. And I was always in awe going in that building. Now, Knapp Hall. Like I said, very Masonic. You'll see here the little pape. This is very similar to what we see in Rider-Waite-Smith. They came from a very similar place. But it's also very Oswald Wirth as well. The pips are very Eudes Piccard in this. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a couple of the majors. And if, like I said, you want to see a full comparison, I will put the link from my friend Melissa down below. There's the World card. Judgment. They actually have 2 fools. Well, this is like a mock fool. This isn't the real. This is like a mock full card. It has all the other cards in there, which is basically what the full is. The full sort of fits everywhere. But, you know, 0, right? But then you still have Shin, the Hebrew letter of Shin. So it is in that Oswald Wirth kind of school. Really beautiful historic deck, and it's very important. I mean, if you like I said, you want to nerd out and learn the history. Here's the actual full. It's, you know, very similar to what we see in Rider-Waite-Smith. And the sun. Okay, and so now I want to show you the pips, because, and I'll just do this briefly, it was very, very Eudes Piccard. You know, you see it's a very same kind of structure, geometric patterns and so forth that you see. You have the pentacle or the pentagram for the 5, you know, which relates to the human body in a lot of ways, you know, and that's one way to look at the 5s. It's in the shape of a person with the arms spread out and the legs spread out, like you see with Leonardo da Vinci, for instance, who was also another Freemason. 4, we have the, you know, we have the 2 scales balance, but then you have that very stable structure of 4. So it's kind of cool, you know, when you're learning, you can really learn numerology using these, even just visually, even just looking at them. They, you know, someone once said to me, and look, you have the spade there, that even if people who don't read with numerology, there's still numerology in there. It's just unconscious, you know, or subconscious. My friend Mendy said that. It made a lot of sense to me, because it's true. You know, like, you know, we have our Tarot de Marseille group, and we all practice reading Marseille, and even people who don't use numerology still have some kind of numerology that just is unconscious, right? So that's that is the Page of Swords, I believe. Yes, Page of Swords. And this is the Knight. Did I show you the backs? The backs are really cool. Anywho, here's the Wands. This is more like, this reminds me of the Boda deck a lot, like Boda, because you don't have much else except just the wands and the shapes. So you have the numerological meaning on there, but you don't have the elemental meaning so much. So you can really apply whatever system you want to this. The Boda deck, I don't have it handy, I don't think, but the Boda deck is an interesting kind of cross between Rider-Waite-Smith majors and this kind of Eudes Piccard minor system. It's really an interesting deck, and it's a very underrated deck, as I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about that very topic. Like, you know, it doesn't have Pixies minors, but in the same sense, it has like the Eudes Piccard system, and it has the major arcana from the Rider-Waite-Smith, and it's just a really great underappreciated deck. But anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by. I think that's enough for today. You know, I am going to do a video birthday haul coming up, and hopefully I'll be getting outdoors soon, because spring's coming. I almost got outdoors today, but you know, to make my outdoor videos that I usually do, but it was just a little wet outside and it was hard to get around. So, but it was still warm. So hopefully, as the warm weather comes, you'll be seeing me outdoors. But anyway, I appreciate you stopping by today. I hope everybody is well, and you'll be hearing from me again in a couple of days with my birthday haul. So love and peace, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.